Welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Hamer. This is where we go beyond the headlines and get into how great leaders, operators, and innovators in retail really think. From building teams, scaling businesses, to loyalty and data, every week I talk to the people building and running and reinventing retail, unpacking what's working, what's changing, and what's next. If you care about the detail of retail, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast. Today we'll start with a question. What happens when the person who felt the problem the most decides to fix it themselves? Jack Hopkins was a qualified electrician, and every day jobs ground to a halt because materials arrived late or not at all. He got frustrated enough to invest his own savings, become his own first delivery driver, and build a platform to solve it. That platform is Tradeaze, and it's now one of the most interesting logistics startups in the UK. Jack, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the
Pleasure.
kind introduction there.
Well, we'll get better, no doubt. You were an electrician and you put in 200,000 of your own money on the line. You got on a bike and you started delivering bricks. Now you're backed by investors and working with Travis Perkins and Jewson. How does that happen?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, by trade, I was an electrician. I initially started out by just a one-man band doing residential installations, so rewires, etc. They actually call them in the industry, they call them house bashers. Anyway, so I started off as a house basher. I then the contracts got bigger, commercial offices. I fell into a niche of commercial kitchens actually, and even more so the dark kitchens. If you're familiar with that concept, which is for anyone who doesn't know, warehouses which have been built out into multiple different delivery kitchens, and that's where often your Deliveroo and Uber Eats orders come from. Anyway, so we were doing the installation side of that and the maintenance side. So I was very much in the world of Uber as well as being on the tools as a tradesperson. And there were so many inefficiencies within my business, and sort of to what you alluded to, a lot of them stem down to logistics. I was forever running around collecting parts, dropping them to the sites to keep my jobs moving. And it wasn't just me; it was all the other trades on sites as well, the bricklayers, the carpenters. So I knew there was a problem there, but I didn't know what business model needed to solve it. So I went out playing with product market fit. That went on for about 12 to 18 months, and what that was the MVP was me as the first delivery driver, like you mentioned a minute ago, just on a bike, doing orders around Fulham. I partnered with a couple of DIY stores in the early days along in Dawes Road in Fulham. There was a sort of a DIY store, a plumbing merchant, an electrical wholesaler, near enough in a row with each other. So across those three, I had electricians, plumbers, and builders, and everyone pretty happy. So I was just acting as their delivery driver to begin with. They'd send me a WhatsApp saying, "Hi Jack, I need an order. I need it delivered now." I'd cycle or ride a scooter to the shop, collect the goods, then drop them to the site, and then send them a picture back on WhatsApp and say the delivery's completed, and that was the proof of delivery. So it went on like that for a while, and then I knew I didn't possess the full skill sets that I needed to take Tradeaze to where I wanted it to be and where we are now. And one of those things was I was looking for a technical co-founder. So about a year or so in, I found a co-founder called. I've actually got two co-founders, but for the matter of this conversation, Ruben's a full stack software engineer. So he got us off of WhatsApp. And then, he built out our real MVP, which was a merchant booking portal. And then Joe, our other co-founder, he's got a degree in business economics. So he keeps a keen eye on the financials and unit economics and all the rest of it. So once that team's assembled, we then had an actual product that we could approach larger companies with. You couldn't go to your Travis Perkins and stuff like that with send me a WhatsApp. So once we actually had this product, we started approaching the bigger businesses. And yes, it was Travis Perkins. They gave us a trial in the early days out of St Pancras and Paddington. And then sort of fast forward to today, we're working with Travis, Jewson, Lords, MKM, SIG, all of the top merchants out there. We've got nearly 3,000 drivers on the platform now across the UK. And we've raised, you mentioned the money I put in at the beginning. We've now, it's now not just funded by me. At the time, I was working on the tools in the evenings so that I could afford to be on a bike in the day doing the deliveries. And that's where we, went into the sort of 200K investment territory. But now we've been backed by external investors. We've raised 3 million to date. So now it's just a case of scaling up the volumes across all the key regions in the UK.
Very cool. So a couple of questions on that. One, so what is the biggest benefit of having actually done that delivery? I mean, it's so easy to code a SaaS MVP in Lovable or Claude Code nowadays, but what are the biggest benefits of having done that product research in person yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I know both sides of the platform, right? I know what it's like to be on the tools and delayed and stuff like that. And then, yes, I've done all that time on the bike, and not just on the bike. We then started introducing vans. I was in a van doing deliveries for about a year as well. I learned how the yards work. I learned, the problems that the merchants face as well on getting goods prepared quick enough. You can get blocked in by a lorry. So the problems the merchants face in the yard, the problems the drivers face in the yard, I know all that, and the other side on site as well. So that was really important, because at the time when we were doing the deliveries ourselves, even Ruben, my technical co-founder, he was doing the deliveries as well.
Yeah.
We were users of the driver app whilst building the driver app.
Right.
So that was super important, because we've used I'd say there's probably a lot of CPOs out there, or CEOs and stuff, who have these apps and they've just never even used them. But yeah, for us it was
Yeah.
super valuable.
Get out of the ivory tower and get on the road.
And that's it.
This is a big problem you're solving, right? So construction workers lose an estimated 2 hours a day retrieving materials, which is about 35 billion in lost productivity when you look at 2.7 million construction workers. Does that feel right? Like, did you,
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
were
yeah.
on site, like that 2 hours a day?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it depends how big your team is. Well, sometimes you can spend the whole day, and that's all you've done. If you've got multiple different sites on, you could be dropping one at one site in the morning, then another to another site. So you could, once you've got that small team, you can quite quickly become a busy fool. And all you do is run materials around sites. I actually had you say about how big the problem is. I had an interesting conversation a few weeks ago. A lot of these builders, right, they're on like 90-day payment terms, and
Mm.
in order to get paid for a certain part of a project, they have to sign it off, and then they get stage payments every 90 days. And I was every now and again, we still cover operations on a Saturday, sit there watching the admin portal, and again, it's something that we even do as founders, so we're staying in touch with what our operations team have to deal with. Anyway, I was on the phone to a tradesperson, and it was someone who I actually knew from when I used to deliver to the site when I was in the van. And he was like, you guys getting that here? The delivery was like 50, 60 quid or something like
Mm.
that. And we got, it was like, he was looking to close a roof, and I was getting the insulation there so he could close that roof. That enabled him to claim like an 80K or 100K payment or something like that, which he wouldn't have
Yeah.
seen for another 90 days if he didn't pay for that on demand 50, 60 quid delivery, what it was. So it just shows, that's to quantify how big these problems can be on site. 50, 60 quid delivery in comparison to not seeing potentially 80 to 100 grand or whatever it was for another 90 days.
Yeah.
It could be, it could kill some people's businesses, really,
Totally.
that
But
kind of
yet,
cash flow issue.
with this being an issue for tradespeople, fewer than 1% of UK builders merchants offer same day delivery. So why has no one solved this before?
You need the elastic network. We've built out, and this is where we're like Uber, rather than taxis. It's guys in big vans, it's guys in flatbed trucks and stuff like that. And these are types of supply that we've had to create over the years. Okay, it's too capex intensive for an on-demand delivery company to own all these vehicles nationwide, have yards
Mm.
everywhere and stuff like that. So whoever done it had to really use technology, and they had to build a marketplace out of it. And it's not an easy job. Ironically, in the early days, investors used to reject us because of the people heavy side of the business and how operational it was going to need to be. We're now, touch wood, we've sort, I wouldn't say we're fully past that point, but the network effects of the marketplace are really coming into place, the sort of marketplace liquidity and things like that. And it's not an easy business to build. So I'd say no one's ever done it because owning the vehicles is too expensive. It's just, it's not feasible. And building a marketplace out of it is hard work. And it's something that has taken us not just technology, but time and trust with the drivers and patience. Yeah, it's taken a while to build.
Totally. And in every marketplace, they say there's sort of a hard side and an easy side. One side that's really asking for it, and the other that you need to work hard to bring to the table. What's been the hard side of this marketplace?
It was the supply, and that's a really good question. So supply being the drivers, demand being the merchants, right? And in the early days, we didn't have the ability, we didn't have the driver, we didn't have the ability to onboard self-employed freelance drivers. So we had to fake the supply side of the marketplace. And when I say fake it, that means we bought 10 vans, we still own them. So we had to fake the supply side in the sense that we own the vehicles. So an order was coming in, we'd then just send it on our own van, and that was it. We didn't have to worry about that whole sort of freelance driver world. Once we built out the driver app and the ability to onboard them, take all their documents, the drivers in app, and train them in app and things like that, we started onboarding them. And you need thousands of them, right? So that's it's definitely the supply side.
Okay. So the merchants are happy to play ball. We've got the drivers there. Obviously, there's people who are willing to buy items on site. That's the big need. But so it's the biggest problem you've been solving is the middle ground of those two and the drivers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And had you ever worked in tech or logistics before Tradeaze or before their origin, or was this all new?
It's all new. A lot of my electrical customers were like tech entrepreneurs. So I mentioned sort of being in the delivery and Uber world as well as on site, but I also done a lot of high end residential, and some of these guys were young blokes, young girls, whatever, and they build tech companies or they're building tech companies, raising millions of pounds. So I hadn't done it, but I'd seen it being done, which sort of made me think, oh wow, if all these guys are doing it, they're the same age as me, if not some of them, were much younger. I started Tradeaze when I was 25 or 26. Some of them were young, even a lot younger than that at the time. So I guess that's what made me go into it as well.
Okay. Yeah, conviction, this could be done as a tech entrepreneur.
Exactly. Yeah, and knowing where to start. A lot of people wouldn't know where to start with building a tech company. A lot of them would probably just go out there, chuck a load of money at a consultancy or something, and build loads of stuff that they don't need. But the reality is, find tech co-founder, start very basic with a seriously simple MVP. Just keep iterating on it, and before you know it, we've now got sort of 4 or 5 apps all talking to each other. The driver app, the admin portal, which is a transportation management system, the merchant booking portal, an API, a tracker app. These 5 apps are all working together and talking to each other. So it's all proprietary. That it all started from just a very basic online form, and before you know it, you've got some crazy system.
Yeah. And it must be really tempting to go down the feature route, particularly when you're working initially with big customers who might have requests. So how do you resist that? How do you keep it lean, and how do you avoid building features that aren't actually going to add value?
We still test things manually. So the whole business was built on WhatsApp. Sometimes you'd still use WhatsApp to test certain things as well before launching it as a feature. Maybe it's scheduled delivery or something. At the moment, we'll say, look, if you need your delivery scheduled before we go building all the tech for it, if you need your delivery scheduled, just send us a message or WhatsApp, an email, or an in-app. We've got an in-app chat, and request it. Put it in the notes. If we see enough of the requests coming in for the scheduled delivery, sometimes we'll beef up the price slightly so we can start getting a feel for, okay, well, they want it. Are they willing to pay for it? So, and by the time you've done all that stuff, you go, right, all these people are now requesting it. They're paying more money for it. Okay, it's worth building. And we validated it by just taking the requests on messaging, right?
Yeah, nice. So are there any features you built that haven't worked out, where you went too far down that nice to have route?
Probably. I'm trying to think of one.
You've erased them all from your memory.
Yeah. I don't want to think about them anymore. To be honest, they're probably, off the top of my head, I actually can't think of anything. We've been very strict with it, and again, taking it back to fundraising. The first sort of million we raised, it came in drips and drabs. It came in sort of 20K here, 5K there, ridiculous sums of money. And sometimes, nicer chunks, 50K, 100K, whatever. But what that done is that made us really focus on what was super important at the time. Okay. And then later, the back half of the round, the second 2 million or 1.5 million, whatever, it came quickly. We raised like the last 1.5 million came within a space of like 2 weeks that we raised it, so which was super quick. But what that done was, it's ingrained in our heads now to just focus on what's super important and to the point a minute ago, validate it. So for that reason, I don't think we've thrown loads of money and loads of resource at things that we haven't used or needed, because of we've always had to be quite strict with ourselves on it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. To
Yeah.
discipline. Speaking of which, you went ahead and invested 200K of your own money before you had a product or a platform. Did anyone try and talk you out of that?
Again, that yes, I mean, there's family members and friends who are like, when you chuck in so much money into something, and not just the money, the time as well. But being on the bike and doing deliveries all day, every day, and not earning money from it, where I could be on a site earning 300 quid or whatever. That there's a lot of money there as well. But anyway, there was a lot of family members and friends who were like, "You sure? You've got a good electrical company here. Yeah, you're a qualified electrician. You could be earning this, and you're out on a bike. You're doing the right thing." So yes, there moments, but I always believed in it, and and it was slowly building. And if I didn't see it slowly building, then I'd have probably looked at it and gone, "Am I doing the right thing here?" But we went from one order a month to one order a week to one order a day, and it was progressing and picking up. So I think the fact that I saw that just kept me excited and kept me going.
What do you think is different in your mentality that from the many MDs of electrical companies that just stay in the trade and make good money and live a good life?
I think probably back to that point of where my client base, a lot of them had been there and done it. A lot of them were the young sort of tech entrepreneurs, and I was around those kind of people, so I saw that it was possible. A lot of electricians or plumbers, builders, maybe they haven't really been around that as much. Um, I think that would be the only differentiator, because they're all hard workers. They're all smart people. Being an electrician or a plumber, any kind of builder, it's not easy. You got to do your exams. Electrical was like a 4-year course or something I done. So they're all smart people, fully capable. It's just knowing where to start, I think.
Yeah. How do you see
Mm.
that the tradie role or the skill tradie role evolving? Because we're already seeing a shortage, right? Like, is this what's going to happen to supply and demand in that market?
I think you'll get more eventually. So yes, we are seeing a shortage, but with everything AI is doing, you saw that recent Anthropic chart and about the construction, where we're on both sides of it, actually, construction and transport, sort of at the lower end of the spectrum in terms of AI and all the rest of it. But I think the more AI progresses and everyone's worried about their jobs and whatever, it would drive people towards like those sort of trades, right? Being a plumber, being an
Yeah.
electrician, things that AI can't quite easily replace, or maybe not anytime soon. So I think we'll be okay.
Uh, good. So you mentioned the logistics and the vehicles being the hard side of this market to build, but getting merchants on board and to trust a startup is no small feat either, especially when the first one was Travis Perkins. So how do
Mm.
you get a Travis Perkins or a Jewson to trust a startup with their customers?
Yeah, I think what helps is knowing the industry as well. So where I was on the tools, a lot of these TP guys or juicing guys, the heads of transport, the MDs, whatever high roles, these are all people who have worked their way up from being in the yard. So I think straight away they kind of trust us, and they can relate to us, because it's normally, if I'm pitching to the head office, it's normally me doing that. We have got regional business development guys, but to date it's been me selling to the enterprise customers at head office level, and a lot of the time, they, just like me, they can relate to being in the yard or being on a site. So I think that usually helps us. um, Getting in with them, it's a long process, but once you're in with more of them, it speeds it up. So Travis, getting set up as a supplier with them, Jewson, they've got to do their DD, right. They've got to do their checks. It can take months sometimes. But once you're set up with quite a few of them, getting set up with the next one will probably happen quicker. Maybe because they're like, "Oh, we need to be working with them. Let's push this through quicker." Maybe because they can see that we've had to go through all the GDPR stuff and all the rest of it with the previous big enterprise customer, so it's already in place. So I think once you've done a few of them, it definitely speeds up the rest for various different reasons.
It's good. Now you offer 1 hour, 3 hour, and same day delivery. Which ones do customers actually choose?
I mean, it's a variety, right? You have normally, I think about 30% of our sales are booked the previous day. So we're going into a day and then 70% of them are on demand, but that could be, you mentioned the 3 hour, that's actually now called priority, and it's more dynamic. We used to just call it a 3 hour window because we didn't have the tech at the time to give an exact ETA, but now it's more priority delivery, and it will let them know if it's within 2 miles, it will say it will be with you in 25 minutes. But you could order a priority delivery from Birmingham to London, and then it will say 2.5 hours. So that's sort of dynamic now. So anyway, priority means someone comes straight to you and delivers straight to site. Same day is just delivered by 4 p.m. Like I say, 70% of the orders are either same day or priority.
And then, of course, you have construction sites are pretty difficult places to deliver to, right? You got tight access, no clear address. What's the hardest delivery problem you've had to solve?
Yeah, I mean, it is that. It's exactly that. Some of these construction sites, the door isn't in a fixed location, is it? It could be a hoarding, it could be a huge commercial site in London, and the entrance point changes every week. Sometimes it's the postcode doesn't even exist yet. Google Maps isn't even aware of this postcode because it's a new development and it's a new postcode. So yes, you get these things, but we take the customer's number in app. So the driver can call them, and it usually doesn't really hit us. It normally doesn't hit Tradeaze. If there's an issue on site doing a delivery, the driver will call the tradesperson. They'll sort something out between them. So we're quite fortunate in that respect.
Mm. Okay, that's good. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
putting it back on the individuals that are actually involved.
Yeah.
That makes no
And
sense.
they're freelance drivers, right? So it's in their best interest. They've accepted the job at a set rate. They're decent guys. They can think on their feet. It's in their best interest to just get it done. I guess if you've got a day rate guy, say we still owned the vans and stuff like that, and we're paying people day rates to do deliveries, there might be a little bit more of, oh, I'll just sit here for 10 minutes and wait because I'm not really bothered when this delivery gets done. But if you've accepted that job for £100 and you need to get onto your next one, you're calling the customer, you're making sure they're there,
Yeah.
you're making sure it's done. So it's it's that sort of way of working. It makes us quite efficient on that front as well.
Totally. And so
Yeah.
you've integrated Uber alongside your own driver network, and how do you decide which one is given a given order? Have you tried other options for integrating with fleets?
So we've got an integration with Uber. They seem to be the best on bikes. So we only done it for bikes because bikes is it can be high volume, right, and lower value orders, smaller parts, so they tend to be lower value. So people don't want to pay as much for delivery for them. So we've done the integration with Uber because it just made sense to offload a load of smaller deliveries with Uber, and then we can focus on what we do best, right? There's loads of companies out there who can do bike deliveries, okay, but there's none who have really sussed the heavy side. When I say heavy side, I'm talking timbers, bricks, and stuff like that. There's the generalists just haven't sussed that. So it was very much a business decision to go, okay, well, the bikes need to be there because we need this diverse range of vehicles from bike, car, all size vans, flatbed truck, Lutons, everything. We need, we need that diverse range, but we really want to focus on what we do best here, and that's your extra long wheelbase vans, your open back trucks. If we can just focus that and we put the bikes over here with Uber, that means we can do a super good job here. So that's why that works. Have we trialed other providers? Yes, we trialed a few generalist providers who have vans in their fleet, but they just haven't got the heavy side, the timbers, all the rest of it. Anything over 3 meters is just vehicles either don't turn up or they turn up, they then reject it. That's something that we've actually mastered. It's one of our USPs. Any merchant can go on there and they can book a 4.2 meter timber and they'll get a vehicle in their yard within an hour, and there won't be a rejection. There won't be anything because we've built tech around it. We're onboarding drivers. We're helping, where drivers are upgrading their vehicles to larger vehicles because they get paid more on the platform, all the rest of it. So that's something that we're doing a very good job at. And, a lot of time's gone into it.
So do most of the drivers you're onboarding, do a lot of them now work basically full-time on Tradeaze jobs, or will they tend to still shop around at this point?
A bit of both, but in terms of timings, we don't really clash with other industries as much. So again, if we just look at someone like Uber Eats, or even taxis or something like that, because we do onboard bikers in our own network as well. But in the day, those, in the evening, those guys are much busier, right? Because that's when everyone's ordering dinner. In the day, they're not as busy. So yes, these people work on other platforms, but they can still, they can work on Tradeaze in the day comfortably and then go do Uber or other deliveries in the evenings. So it works out quite well. The window for us is between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. That's when builders are on site. And yes, between those times, you might get guys and all they're doing is Tradeaze. And then from 3 o'clock till God knows whatever, they do whatever they do, their own private jobs, most of them.
Mm.
Removals jobs. By that time, people are getting home from work and they needed to be home to do it. So yeah, it works well for them.
Right. Now that you've fundraised at a scaling, what's the biggest focus? Is it more drivers? Is it more merchants? Is it more demand for the platform on the actual trade end?
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be more drivers and more merchants. We just want to keep going and going and going. Before, the focus was to get into new regions, but we're now in all the key regions across the UK. We haven't really left, we haven't left anything open now. So the focus is more ramping up volumes within all of our regions. Yeah, seeing if we can really maximize, um, the volumes and benefit even more from the network effects and the density of places like London, Manchester, and Leeds and things like that.
Yeah, in terms of getting the tradespeople to actually put orders on the books, is that driven mainly through the partnerships with the merchants and then pushing tradies out, or do you have to advertise directly to the trade?
Yeah, so at the moment, you can interact with tradies. Well, you soon will be able to interact with tradies in two different ways. At the moment, it's the tradespeople will order it from their merchant, and it's their merchant who will book it out on our web app.
Yeah.
Okay, but now we are getting into e-commerce integrations, and I guess this is sort of your world and more relevant to retail as well, because a lot of people ordering online with the builders merchants tend to be homeowners rather than tradespeople as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
We're now getting into e-commerce integrations where we're a delivery option at checkout, right? So you could go, I'll just use, any merchant we're doing it with at the moment. But if you went on Hopkins' website at the moment, you'd probably see 2 or 3 day delivery, whatever they have. But soon it'll be pulling through Tradeaze as a delivery option. And you'll just see our dynamic price. So it'll be get it in 2 or 3 days with builders merchant, or get it by 4 p.m. today with Tradeaze for £35.95, and it will just pull our live price through.
Nice.
So I guess that's when we're then getting more into retail. That's then when we have a bit more of a call to action for the actual tradespeople themselves, rather than just request a Tradeaze delivery from your merchant. We can actually direct them to the merchant's websites and say you'll see us there as a delivery option. So that's exciting.
Yeah. And then you're giving Amazon-like capabilities to, regular builders merchants. And is there a reason that couldn't work in other categories, other categories in your sites?
No, and I mean on the web app, we're already seeing it. So we've done deliveries for businesses in the film industry, what other catering. So we've done commercial cooking equipment. Again, the dark quick kitchens, moving other big industrial ovens between sites. There's been a few industries that we've events. We've done jobs for events, people in events. So I think it could quite easily go into adjacent verticals, especially with the e-commerce the e-commerce offering. Like I was saying earlier, when it gets to ordering any on-demand delivery company out there ordering something over 3 meters, don't get me wrong, there's people out there who do it, but it's not guaranteed, and it's quite often not a pleasant experience. So I think there's more industries who have those bigger, longer lengths or bulkier loads, and Tradeaze would fit quite well for them.
Awesome. You're going to have to launch a new brand for the retail market.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, who knows?
What's the hardest investor no you received? What was that reason?
A lot of them used to be because of we hadn't proven out our supply, right? Like I was saying earlier about at the time we owned the vans, and that's because we didn't have the tech resource to build the driver app, like I was saying. So we used to get a lot of the same no, and it was that, but we always knew what we had to do. It was just getting around to being able to do it, and we actually needed the money to do it. So it was a bit of a cat and mouse sort of situation, I guess. We've had. I'm just trying to think of maybe a funny rejection. I don't know. I can't think of any more. I'll let you know if I think of one throughout.
No worries. It seems like one of your superpowers is forgetting anything that
Yeah,
is
anything
relevant
bad.
to the future.
Yeah.
What is so? This is related to the question on going into retail. What does consumer delivery do well that construction and other large item logistics needs to copy?
Um, so what do they do? I do think it is that. Look at Amazon Prime and stuff, right? It's unbelievable. You go on there. I ordered something over the weekend on Amazon Prime, and it was actually there the same day by like 10 o'clock, and yeah, it's just that. And this is what we're doing, right? We're bringing that into the construction industry, and that is needed because I think the thing I ordered was like some new hair wax or something. It's not, I didn't need that same day. It was handy. It was a luxury, but it wasn't a necessity. I think the fact that you can get that with just about anything, but you can't get it in construction, and construction, it is a necessity. To my point earlier, when I quantified it by saying about that guy with the, if he didn't get it done in time, he wouldn't have seen his money for 90 days. I think that just needs to be an option with the builders merchants, that they need to have that same day offering, and that is exactly what we're doing for them.
Well, the hair wax is certainly working, Jack. Yeah, it looks great.
I actually haven't got it in today, but
help me out.
Thank you.
No, so where are you leveraging AI at the moment in Tradeaze, and where are you being a bit more cautious with it?
Yeah. You say where are we leveraging AI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you?
So, I mean, a great example is our driver app again. So, to onboard the drivers, there's a number of things that we need to vet them, okay, and train them. So, documents, we make sure they have a certain amount of goods in transit insurance. We have to check their right to work in the UK. We have to check hire and reward insurance, their driving license, and all these things. There's about 7 or 8 documents they have to upload, as well as their vehicle details and everything. We previously we had a human going through the documents, looking at the expiry dates on their licenses, on their insurance documents and the policies and stuff like that. And then the very last step would be that we approve them. We've now got AI just extracting all the dates. So what used to take a human sort of 2 weeks to do 100 of them or 150, we've now got AI doing it, and doing a very better job than a human on it. And it costs us like 50p for every 150 drivers. So it's I'd say that's a pretty good example there. And I think that the benefits of using AI is you can significantly reduce the need for future head office. So I think that's sort of what one of, and being super efficient. And so I guess that point I just made then was more about reducing the need for all these future head office people checking documents and stuff. And then on an efficiency, and that is it, that also does come into efficiency as well. But let's talk operational efficiency. It's our route optimization tool. Okay. It's built and it's trained. Again, proprietary AI. It's optimizing the routes for the drivers, and it's also trained to know, okay, well, you've got these big and bulky loads on. Sometimes you might have a ton of bricks sitting on top of a sheet of plasterboard, and the plasterboard's got to come off first. But but you can't get it off because of the bricks is there. So we've got it. We've got to train in a number of different ways. It's taking into account what's on board, what the route is, what's got to come off first, who's the nearest driver. So that's just what makes us super efficient.
That's cool. Any area of the business where you're intentionally not leveraging AI, where it's got to stay human?
At the moment, if a merchant wanted to call Tradeaze, they would get through to a person, because they sort of like speaking to a person sometimes. So we're not using it there yet. What other areas? drivers for that matter. Some of the drivers, if they go, we do have an automated series of questions, and normally things get rectified before they've even hit the point where they need to talk to a human. It might be, I've lost a number and all that sort of stuff. There is like automated flows there, but again, on the driver side, we could have AI agents just dealing with pretty much all of the driver's issues, because normally they're not huge issues. They're things that can be sorted pretty quickly and easily, and just with a gentle nudge of help. So I'd say if we were going to use agents or something, we'd probably use it on the drivers first, learn about it there, and then if merchants wouldn't mind, release it on the merchants as well.
All right. What's been the hardest part of going from a sole trader to an investor-backed startup that no one warned you about?
It was learning about how that investment world sort of worked, and I guess that's where a lot, you mentioned rejections earlier, especially in the early days. I mentioned about the rejections because of the supply, but a lot of the super early day rejections was probably because we didn't have our house in order in terms of a nice clean data room. Maybe the deck didn't probably quite look good enough. But we didn't know what a good deck should look like because we'd never really done one before. But those sort of things you learn by just chucking yourself into the meetings, and again, just getting rejected, sort of thinking, okay, why did I get rejected? As long as you can get honest feedback, which is brilliant. You don't always have the luxury of getting feedback. Often you just never hear from people again. But it's I think it was getting our heads around how that investment world sort of worked, what the process was, what investors expected to see. It was getting used to that side of it, I'd say, in the early days.
What was the most challenging thing about going from a single city to a national operation?
Single city to a national operation, we kind of took what we learned. We started in London, right? We kind of took what we learned in London, and where we were very hands-on ourselves, again, on the demand side and on the supply side. So we've been in the vans ourselves. We really got a feel for how it builds from scratch, right? So we just sort of repeated that, and we tested a smaller region before going to a bigger region. So our first other major region we went to, so we had London, then the first next major region was then Birmingham. But before we done Birmingham, we done like Reading and stuff like that, somewhere which was far enough from London for it to be operationally different, but sort of close enough for if we needed to get there, we could actually pull a driver from London. So it was quite handy sort of doing that, and we learned things there which we then took into Birmingham. And once we'd done Birmingham, you sort of built that playbook. I won't give all our secrets away, but we sort of built that regional playbook, and then the flywheel starts turning, and then you see it working. And then we've done the same thing in Manchester and Leeds and all the rest of it. So it's just being quite involved as well. I was very involved in the Birmingham expansion. So even though that was quite further down the line, I was up there chatting to merchants, chatting to drivers. We done like a pizza party with drivers when we invited them all down, got talking to them. And the reason we're chatting to the merchants, we're trying to feel out if they use the cheaper pricing up there, and all the rest of it. So I think for your first new region, it makes sense to get quite hands-on again. And then once you've learned it, you can then hire with Manchester stuff. We just hired a business development guy. We recruited the drivers remotely. We'd actually do another one of those pizza party things. But we sort of, we knew what we were doing from Birmingham.
Nice. And delivery drivers love pizza.
Not many of them actually turned up, to be honest.
Okay.
But I think the ones who did enjoyed the pizza.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So where does the business have to be to raise its next round and become as big as you want it to be? And what are the biggest risks to that?
Yeah. Where does the business have to be? I think we would have had to, at the top, last time we raised money, we hadn't gone into another region at that point. Okay. I think to raise another round, one thing they'd want to see is the fact that this thing works outside of London. It works. We can scale it into another city. it also works not necessarily in cities where there's the density. We've actually proven it. We're working in the middle of Norwich, in the countryside and the coast of Norwich, and down to the coast of Brighton and stuff like that, and all the way up to everywhere in between of Manchester, Leeds, and above. So I think we'd have to, and we have done it, like I say, prove that it can go other places and it works in places that aren't necessarily big cities. We've done that. Um, I think something else would be investors might want to see that other verticals or other industries might use it as well. We've got a competitor in the US. They've done a great job. They're called Curry. They raised a 42 million Series B. I think profitable business. They are now going into adjacent verticals. So maybe it's proving out that other industries do want to use you, which we've done that as well. And potentially, an overseas opportunity as well. So to raise more cash, do they want to see that, okay, this could work in, I don't know, we could pilot a city in the Middle East or Europe or wherever. So that I think that they'd also want to see that it could go overseas as well.
And is that a journey you want to go on? Is that how big do you want Tradeaze to be?
I want it to be big. Yeah. I don't want to say the plans because there's a few, there's a few competitors like dotted around. So, but yeah, we want it to be big.
All right. What makes Tradeaze better than those competitors?
I do think our founding team is good. There's not really been a founding team out there where you've got the tech, you've got the industry knowledge, you've got someone who can actually, because a lot of startups these days, my other business partner Joe, he does keep a real keen eye on our financial model and unit economics and stuff like that. There's a lot of, especially startups who have got cash thrown at them too early, and that stuff goes out the window. But
Yeah.
I think where we're all completely different to each other, but we've got that industry person, myself, we've got that tech person, Ruben, we've got that person making sure we're building sustainably. I think that's quite a strong team, and I think they're good, very different skill sets, all bouncing off each other well. So I do think we've got a strong founding team, and the business has matured over time. And again, back to what I mentioned a few times, we've done our time in the vans as well. We've got a lot of there's a lot of experience behind us now as well. We're in a strong position. All the tech we've built as well, but that's taken us years.
All right. Excited to see it.
Yeah.
And then what, Jack, is your most controversial prediction for the future of logistics and retail?
Yeah, I think, well, not logistics specifically, but I guess a controversial topic of the future of retail is how does the high street look? Is the high street dying? And I guess it does tie into logistics, because you see a lot of these people saying, oh, the high street's dying, all these shops closing down in 10, 20 years' time. Are there even going to be shops on a high street? So I think if that is the case, then all of a sudden logistics in retail becomes far more important, right? Because if there's no people still gonna go to the shop, they used to go to the shop and get it same day. But if they're now shopping online, they still expect it same day, and that's where logistics comes into retail, and that's going to be great for us. So I do think the high street is changing. I wouldn't necessarily say it's dying, but I think it's changing in the sense that shops are more just places where you go to try something on, or maybe in the builder's merchant's case, if you're looking to get a load of new bricks or something, you actually want to see the color of the bricks in real life or whatever. So I can see high streets existing for that. It's going to change, and I'd say the controversial view would be that in 10 years' time, I wouldn't be surprised if people aren't really buying things in stores. It's all just done online, and stores are just there for like an experience kind of thing.
Totally. And from building Tradeaze thus far, what is your craziest story in retail?
So crazy story is how much people are willing to pay to get something there same day. And this isn't saying we're expensive, by the way, because we're actually not. We're very fairly priced, but we price on mileage. And we've had situations, and again, this was when I was in the van. And to be honest, our monthly revenue at the time was probably only about £1,000 a month. But I mean, we had an order from London to Glasgow, and it was a door. And ironically, we've actually had another one since, and it was some tiles from Glasgow to London. So people will pay, and because we do it on mileage, and it needed a van, and it's per mile. It racked up. I think the delivery was about 900 odd quid or something. I done it myself. I'd done that. It was like 3 o'clock on a Friday. Someone just desperately needed this door. I got it up to them there like 10 o'clock at night or something, whatever it was. So I think that the craziest thing is if people need it that day, they'll pay it. And quite often they're desperate.
Wow. Okay. So that can have
Yeah.
that kind of value. What are you thinking about when to build a business? You drive 7 hours on a Friday night, starting at 3 p.m., right? They end up in Glasgow at 10 p.m. What drives you? What motivates you through that period?
I don't know. I'm crazy. I'm mental. No, I really don't know. It's I mean, that particular case, like I said, back then we were probably only doing about £1,000 in revenue a month. So in that particular case, I'd have been in the van all day. Yes, it came through. I remember it was 3 o'clock exactly. It came through, but I was probably looking at it and thinking, I can bring in a grand's revenue. That's what we normally earn in a month, but I can do that if I just crack on now. So, in that particular case there and then, it was to like double monthly revenue just from one drop. But you just have to do these things, right? You can't, that was for one of our important customers back then. We only had a few customers as well. It was getting them out of the trouble. It was making them look good to their end customer, which, well, in this case was actually a homeowner. So it's just keeping up that, they want a provider. We're only a small business, but they do want a provider who doesn't turn around and say no. Ultimately, they could probably have used a big company who would have just done it because they have thousands of drivers. We're now at that point where we have thousands of drivers. Back then we didn't, but it was important to just, I guess, make them feel that like they were using someone who is just always going to do it.
All right, London to Glasgow is a little bit easier nowadays.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but funny enough, we actually done one a few weeks ago from Amsterdam. And it's not a service we advertise. But again, it was actually the same customer who done the Glasgow one when I delivered it. They needed some stuff collected from Amsterdam and brought back to the UK. It wasn't same day, luckily, because I think we had to go through a whole process of booking it through customs and all that sort of stuff. But it was within a few days kind of thing. I remember I heard that it was a bit of a tight one. It's interesting to see that kind of demand there.
Yeah, fascinating. Goes well for Tradeaze for the future. Jack Hopkins, thanks so much for coming on the Retailers Detail podcast.
Lovely. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
And that's it for today's episode of the Retail is Detail podcast. This episode was brought to you by Loxa, the Klarna for insurance, helping protect every retail customer everywhere. We help retailers offer product protection seamlessly on all major platforms, online and in store, across all insurable categories. Visit loxacover.com to find out more. You can catch previous episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, or at retailisdetailpodcast.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram to get insights from the podcast every day. I've been your host, Jamie Hamer. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.